Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Zach Smith. I'm the product and training specialist at Growers. I'll be hosting this month's conference call. In the past years, we've always done the October call has always been the call that the office staff comes on to give updates on the company, direction, a variety of topics, transportation, raw materials, pricing. It was always in October because that's the start of the sales season, usually before COVID times and supply chain times and all this stuff, when the price was set. So we're going to continue that this year. Even though things have changed a little bit as far as pricing structure goes, there's still lots of updates to give. And it's a good opportunity for some of the office staff who don't have as much contact with our sales force or customers to kind of be on the call together and potentially answer some questions or just introduce themselves. So for this call, myself, I'll be hosting. I won't be doing much myself, but we're going to have Jim Hallbeisen on, our director of research, as he usually is. He'll start us off when the time comes. We're also going to have Jim Ward on, who is our, he's on the, sorry guys, I'm just admitting people. He's on the board of directors as kind of our sales specialist. And then also Chris Coles, who has joined the company this summer, just a couple months ago, as our sales manager. Also, Russ Boble and his wife Osa are on this call as well. They don't have anything they're going to present on per se, but if you guys have any questions for them or for any of the others who are speaking, we'll have a time near the end for that. So with all that said, when question time does come, if you're on a computer or a smartphone, there should be a little microphone in the bottom left to unmute yourself. You can ask a question then. If you're on a dial-up phone or a non-smartphone, I should say, it's *6 to unmute yourself. Alternatively, you can raise your hand. There's a function for that in the bottom bar, and then I can unmute you. So I think that's everything. And Jim Hallbeisen, you're welcome to get us started if you're ready.
Yeah, can you hear me, Zach?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, real good. Yeah, I think what we'll do for everybody is our salesman call that we've been conducting since this fertilizer circus has started. We've tried to kind of summarize every week what the high points are as far as the current events in agriculture. So what I've done is gone back and looked at those particular publications and then tried to pick the high points out for the last month to try to give those of you that are not participating in the weekly call kind of a summary of what we're seeing as far as the agricultural current events are concerned. Because it's all about cost, and particularly fertilizer cost. And so the different things that are being discussed that are affecting fertilizer costs is kind of the things that we want to talk about. And what seems to be happening in the feedback that I'm getting from the field is very interesting. You know, I started full time with Growers in '94, and the message has been the same since '94. And with this fertilizer catastrophe that we've got going on economically, we're starting to get people that are paying attention to what we've been talking about. And the last article that I think is the most interesting and really the one that kind of says it all, we'll cover that. But before we get to that one, there's several things that have gone on that are affecting fertilizer prices directly and commodities directly also. In the last several weeks, the last 3 weeks, basically, you've had the WASAID report that came out on Wednesday of this week. And then last week, the grain stock numbers came out and discussed, what is in storage. So what are the final volumes that we have in grain? And see, all this is going to affect commodity prices directly. And the thing that has really come to light is just the government is trying, the US government is trying to adjust these numbers to explain where these volumes are at. And what they did with the grain stock position was basically lower the 21 production numbers, because farmers knew that the production wasn't as good as the government was talking about. And they were trying to control prices in that vein. And they let it go as long as they possibly can, which takes us into the 22 season. And so they finally had to make that adjustment. And then this Wednesday of this week, they lowered the yield some more. The one that caught everybody by surprise was soybeans. Corn, everybody's pretty well understood that the corn production is just not out there. But they finally adjusted soybeans this week in the same vein as they did corn. And so we had a nice run on soybeans right after the run in the grains, wheat and corn on Monday. And all of that was related to the Russians basically attacking Ukraine for the destruction of the Crimea Bridge. And see, wheat was up 75 cents on Monday. Corn was up between 20 and 25 on Monday. They took a little of that back. They've been trying to take a little of it back all during the week now, but they just keep popping back up because the volumes are a big concern. And one thing that kind of confirms that is some of the water numbers with the rainfall and the drought. The drought monitor has increased very significantly. You've got somewhere between 55 and 56% of the U.S., continental U.S., that has some kind of dryness, dryness rating. So again, this is going to affect production numbers quite significantly. And then the other thing that a lot of our guys are recognizing is the problem with the Mississippi River, with this dry weather and the lack of runoff to raise the level of the Mississippi. The barge traffic has struggled quite significantly. They've tried to, cut channels in the Mississippi, but they've only been made them wide enough that you got one-way traffic. So they're running south certain hours of the day or certain days of the week. They're running north the other hours or the other days of the week. So again, this dry weather has created quite a problem as far as production is concerned. And see, this only emboldens the chemical companies to hold these fertilizer prices up, guys. So as long as commodities maintain that kind of pricing structure, I think we're going to see that fertilizer prices are going to stay high. And again, the problems with nitrogen, and at the meetings over the last several years, we've talked about this quite a bit in detail. At the Growers program, we've tried to tell guys that you can whittle this nitrogen down quite significantly. And as long as nitrogen was cheap, nobody had any interest in that. But now that's become a very, very important factor that guys are looking at us. And talking to our different representatives, they're getting that feedback from our old clientele for sure, but we have a lot of people that are looking at us now that have not given us a lot of credit in the past. So I believe that the U.S. government is very happy with this. Even the Canadian government is starting to talk about controlling CO2 emission factors by cutting the fertilizer back. And they say they are not cutting the fertilizer back, but that's not correct. They are. They're trying to control that amount of nitrogen that's being applied, in the field. So about the last article that I'd really like to talk about is the article that was in AgWeb discussing return on investment, or ROI. And a lot of these young farmers are starting to think, differently than their fathers or their grandfathers were thinking. Everything was predicated on that big yield. And now these guys are struggling to pay the bills with these fertilizer prices. So test plots have started to become in vogue at this point, which is something that, Growers has basically promoted this since the beginning in 1955. And so that is the big interest now. What are you going to apply? What are you going to get in return? Are you going to pay the bills? You got some of these young guys saying they'd rather make money at a 145 bushel yield than raise 185 bushel yield and not make any money. So again, that's kind of the message that we've tried to convey at Growers. And so the interest it's out there in the field, gentlemen, and our representatives are seeing it too. So this is something that we will continue to promote, over the winter meetings this year, to try to help people understand, the idea of the 4 R's, where you're going to put it, timing, the type that you use, and then the volume, because the volume is the big issue. The environmentalists want control of application, and so they're going to do it through a price structure the way it looks at this point. That's all I got, Zach.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Next, I think we'll have Jim Ward.
How you doing,
There,
Zach?
Jim?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You ready to go?
Yeah, I sure am. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for hopping on. As always, we love hearing from you. And for those who I haven't had a chance to meet either in person or at the winter meeting, which happened in August, my name's Jim Ward, and I've had a great time meeting many of you over the last few months as my involvement at Growers has increased a bit. To give you a little background, my grandfather was George Ward, who was one of the 3 founders, and my uncle was Joe Henry. So it's kind of in my blood to work at Growers. And I'm a very proud member of the 3rd generation who has now started to take on a little bit of a larger role here at Growers as we enter our 68th year. Joining me as members of the 3rd generation are my cousin Russ, who's the grandson of Joe Henry and Jenny's son. Russ is our VP of Marketing and Technology, and his wife Osa is our VP of Development and Planning. Osa is also a tremendous asset to our team as she handles the legal side of the business, assists in long-term goals, and most importantly, she's a great mom to the 4th generation who is now quickly coming up the ranks as they enter school age. It goes without saying, and I wanted to emphasize to all of you on the call because we've heard a little bit of grumblings here and there, but we have every intent of running Growers as a family business for many more generations to go. So please let your customers know, and please rest easy that we have many years of running Growers in our future, and we're very excited about it. As many of you know, we are quickly entering our 68th year of business, and just a couple items we wanted to mention. We still make every drop of product at our original plant in beautiful Milan, Ohio, just as we always have done. We're still very proud to say that Growers today, that we still make the same product today with the same meticulous focus and the same quality that Doctesians instilled in us in 1950s, I should say. Despite the challenging economic landscape and global supply chain instability that all companies experience each and every day, we have not and pledge to never use raw materials that don't meet our strict standards. We bring in high quality materials from all around the world to ensure that our end product meets the same strict standards that our sales team and our customers have grown to expect for nearly 70 years. We know that comes at a cost, and we're doing everything we can each and every day to keep those costs in check, but we'll never sacrifice quality. That's the most important thing to us. And while I have the opportunity, I just want to let you know a couple happenings at Growers, a couple things we're excited about, a couple things have happened over the course of the last year. We purchased a new tanker earlier this year. Uncle Joe Henry would be very proud as we secured a 1990s vintage tanker that's in great shape, that has very low mileage. As I said, it's in excellent shape. And we're currently having it custom wrapped with our Growers logo, and it'll be out on the road shortly. We estimate in the next month or so. We have a second trailer in order. With lead times, we estimate to potentially have that by the end of next year or possibly early 2024. My cousins Russ and Osa took on the project of developing and launching our brand new website, which went live a few months ago. We strongly encourage all of you to take a look at that, as it has everything from, it's a tremendous marketing tool and it has everything from customer videos to literature to numerous growers articles. It really is a great, it's basically a great marketing piece, and it really shows our brand off really well. So please encourage your customers, I should say, to take a look at that. PBS, the television channel, made a documentary about growers, highlighting the fact that we are a small family-owned business that manufactures a unique, high-quality product. And the directors that came to film the project told us they loved our story and our mission, and they were thrilled to work with us. The video is about 6 minutes long, and you can see it on our website today. And if you need the link, we can certainly send it off to you. It's a great video. Does a great job telling our story. And there's some incredible images in there from the Hal Bison farm. You get to see Jim and Joe, which is a lot of fun, and their property is truly beautiful. Last but certainly not least, we hired a sales manager this year. So Chris Coles is the latest addition to our team. He brings 20+ years of sales experience in various markets, and we feel he is a tremendous resource to each and every one of you. Chris is here to help answer sales questions. He's happy to assist you out in the field. He's happy to lead meetings, and he'll be traveling to meet with you on your turf over the next few years, as his plan is to meet with each and every one of the DMs as he can. Over the last few months, he's been traveling with Jim Halbison, learning from him and having a great time meeting many of you in person. So I won't take all of Chris's thunder, as he's going to be have a chance to speak here shortly. But we're thrilled to have him on the team, and please welcome him when you meet him. We think he's going to be a tremendous resource. So Zach, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, team. And we look forward to hearing from you and working with you moving forward. So thanks again.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. And we'll have Chris Coles on next. I saw your name, Chris. Where'd you
Yes,
go?
I'm here. Well,
Awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
Go-
Good evening.
go ahead.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Jim, for the great introduction. For those of you I haven't met, my background is in sales. I have, I'm showing my age a little bit, 25+ years in sales. And, been at the Bobcat, selling Bobcat skid steers. I was working at Kawasaki for about 9 years in their engine division, and then started a fuel additive company a few years ago. But anyway, glad to be on board. For those of you I haven't met, I will get that opportunity here in the next few months. My plan is to get out in the field. Been doing a lot of farm shows with our farm meetings with Jim, and just about to start on a bunch of trade shows that are about to ramp up for the next 4 or 5 months. So look forward to that. One thing I do want to keep in mind with everybody is I am here as a resource. They hired me to be a resource for the sales force, and please look at me that way. However you can utilize my strengths, I'll be glad to help you. Just remember, keep in mind, we do have our one pricing this year, which I think everyone's familiar with, which is, I think, makes everyone's job a lot easier and a little more straightforward. Also remember the discounts. We've got our cash, 10% cash in advance of delivery discount going on right now till December 6th, and then it scales down from there. We also have our 5% cash discount, and then a 5% volume discount, and then also a local pickup delivery discount that's available as well if you're close by. We do want to let you guys know that when we take an order, we guarantee delivery. And as Jim Halbison mentioned, availability is going to be a big issue. There's a lot of stuff going on. Railroad strike's not settled. There's a lot of things, that's, really hampering availability. But we've, management in the company has made a commitment to, if you place an order, we will deliver. So just keep that in mind and use that as a selling tool. That's a strong selling tool, especially now when everything's going on. And we do really want to encourage test plots. We have funds available and resources available for that. So, get out and do those test plots. That's how we can prove what we've been preaching for the last 68 years. But basically, that's all I've got right now. And, feel free to call me directly, email me if you need any assistance. I'm here to help out. So appreciate that. And with that, Zach, that's about all I have.
Thanks, Chris. All right, guys, I think we'll open it up to questions for anybody now. I'll admit we don't really have much more for this call. I've been off this week, but we'll open up to questions now. So it's a little microphone to unmute yourself. You could raise your hand and I can unmute you, or if you're on a dial phone, you can *6.
This is Jim Ward again. I just wanted to mention something real quick. Each and every Friday, we do a DM call. So if you have not called in for those or don't know the number, please call the office. We'll get you that number. And please, we encourage each and every one of you to join us on those Friday calls. And tomorrow we got to kind of leave it as a cliffhanger. We got a couple things that Chris Coles is going to let you know that we think you guys will be excited about. So please join us tomorrow. Thanks.
Hey, Zach. This
Yeah.
is Jim Hallbison again.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Chris Coles mentioned a little bit, guys, but on the sales call on Friday from this last week, there was a publication. It's called The Hill, which there were several different publications that covered the chances of the rail strike occurring here in the U.S. After the initial vote, this is when the politicians got involved and said that they pretty well had taken care of negotiations to prevent a strike. And that is appearing not to be correct. They went through a cooling off period after that negotiation. And then one of the unions took a strike vote this week, and they were positive. Now, a lot of our information is coming from John Clark, who is your manufacturing individual now for the growers product. He was on the railroad for many years, and the issue with the railroad is money is some of it, but not a very large portion of it. He's saying it is a quality of life factor. These hedge funds that now own many of these railroads, it's just cut numbers, cut costs. That means we got to remove bodies they're using, and we've discussed it in the past, using electronics or global positioning to run these trains and do it with very, very small crews. And what they're requiring these crew members is to work, a tremendous number of hours. And so that is where the big discussion is at. And it appears when you look at these articles that John told me right up front that it would be, related to politics. And what we see here is that the next, the status quo period will extend to 5 days after Congress reconvenes, which is currently set for November 14th. That's after the midterms, guys. So again, this railroad thing is far from settled. And see, this distribution is a big part of this. Even some of our raw materials, they don't come to us directly by rail, but they're moved around the country by rail. So again, when you talk with customers, and several of the individuals in the sales force have told me flat out, they're really focusing hard on their old customers to try to get these guys to understand what the situation is. Now, these potential new customers that are looking at us, they've got a cost factor that they can't figure out. In other words, I was talking with a salesman today, and he's got $7 corn with 200 bushel check yield. That's $1,400 an acre. And some of these guys are spending $750 an acre on nitrogen. So again, the amount of wiggle room is starting to dissipate quite significantly. But with our older customers, and that includes a lot of you guys, this availability thing is going to be an issue. When you look at the price of what growers is, and guys are not happy about it, and I'm going to wait this thing out. I would think that over very judiciously, guys. That worked in 08, 09 to a certain degree. When it finally relented, there were a lot of people that ended up with no fertilizer. So again, I think this is something that we're going to have to look over and see. One of the big differences is where is the Russian government in this whole maze. In other words, when the bridge basically was destroyed, and again, the Ukrainians aren't admitting that, but I mean, most people feel that that's why it did happen. The Russians reacted very violently to that, and it's still going on. They've got those, the airplanes that are controlled, from the ground, and they're like kamikaze going into Kyiv, into the country's capital, and civilians are being killed quite significantly. So that pretty well says that they're going to stick this thing out. So again, the price of fuel, availability of product, it's going to be tied very closely to the conflict, in my opinion. So I think you have to discuss with your customers what the possibilities are, and they can wait it out. Hey, we all have that option. But if we get too late in the game, and it's just not, we've got it made and getting it to you, but availability of our raw materials are going to be directly affected, by the strike that possibly could be coming with the railroad. So again, I think guys got to think this over very seriously. And get a game plan for what you're thinking about in 23. Discussing it with one of our district managers this afternoon. He said his seed man from Corteva or Pioneer saying guys are having a very difficult time figuring out how they're going to deal with these high prices. In the past, nitrogen was relatively cheap, so just load up with some more. And that's really not the situation now with natural gas in the position in Europe that they have. And then basically, some of the largest distributors, talking with one of our very old and good customers that does a lot of herbicide spraying and uses a lot of 28 as a sticker. He's short on the availability. He's paid for it. And they're promising him that there's product, and they're telling him right now it's on a ship on the ocean. And so his big concern now is he's got some orders he's got to fill, and he's not got the product. So again, availability is going to be another issue. This is not scare tactics on my part. It's just a issue that I think guys are going to have to give serious consideration to. And if that means you got to pull the trigger earlier, I think that's something you got to try to get locked down, guys. And I think your customers need to know that too. The final decision is theirs, but there's a lot of other issues that are going on. And I thought Jim Ward did a very nice job of mentioning that, this isn't unique to agriculture. Guys are crying the blues about prices, but I mean, we're working on our combine. We've got some transport augers that we use to fill bins, and we needed to repair these things. They gave us trouble last winter when we were moving the crop out, and so when we got done planting in June, we tore those things apart, found out what we needed, and placed the orders. They're going to show up next week. So they say. So again, availability it's going to be an issue, guys. So I think you need to keep in contact with your clientele, let them know what's happening, how we're doing things now as far as the one price is concerned. That again, it's a change. Some guys don't like change, but again, I think its brevity and its ease, I think is very good for the sales force and good for our customers also. But there's a lot of balls in the air, guys. So again, I think you need to think that over yourself, because you're using the grower's product too, but let your customers know what the situation is. Some of these guys are strapped on. They don't even have time to take a breath. You've got to let them know what's happening so that they can make a very rational decision. Thanks for that, Zach.
No problem at all, Jim. If we don't have any other questions, then we'll wrap the meeting up.
Hey, Zach,
Hey,
do
Daniel.
you hear me? I really enjoyed the what everybody shared tonight, but I got a little something that I think would make these calls interesting if people would share a little bit. But I had, do I have time to share a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Lots of time.
I had a guy a couple years ago, 2 years, well, he's done 2 full seasons now. And he used to use 2 tons of chicken litter every year and close to 300 units of nitrogen per acre on his corn. And he said he kept going and doing soil samples, and they kept asking for more fertilizer, and he was making lower yields every year. So last year, not this season, but last season, he went 100% on our program with, you know, whatever we told him to do. And his yields were way up last year. And I went there last week, and I said, "Hey, how'd your crops do this year?" Well, it didn't take me but 10 seconds. I knew I was okay. That old grin started coming across his face, and he was just all happy. And he said, "I used to have fields that would make 180 bushels. He said, this year my lowest field was 235 bushels, and my highest field was 280 some bushels, 287, I think." And he said, "I only used 195 units of nitrogen, and I used 0 chicken litter, 0 chicken litter, just the grower's products and some of the other products I sell with that." But he was excited. That makes me excited. And I just felt like maybe that would be interesting to somebody.
Hey, Daniel, this is Jim Hallbison. Has he done anything with high calcium lime at all?
Yeah, he did. He put just a ton to the acre because he couldn't hardly, he's got a couple thousand acres, or I'm not sure exactly what he had. So he would put a ton to the acre, but now this year he's putting 2 tons to the acre of gypsum on. So he's in a spot where high calcium lime is terribly expensive. And so he's putting 2 tons of gypsum on this year. And then he used some liquid calcium also both years.
Right. That gypsum factor, guys, you know, in the South, there's a lot of gypsum used on peanuts. So their access to gypsum can be competitive against high calcium lime. So again, we've talked a lot about high cal lime, but gypsum is a very good product. It's just a cost factor. And see, again, this gentleman, it's the gypsum's in the realm with the high cal as far as cost is concerned, but it's still a calcium factor. That's really the key for him.
I think he said he's getting gypsum for around $3 to $5 a ton cheaper than he could get the high cal lime hauled in.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So Daniel, my question is, do you think he can do some more whittling on nitrogen? Do you think he's about to his low point, in southern soil? Those are pretty fantastic yields. I assume that's under irrigation also.
Yeah, that's with irrigation. He said he's going to whittle a little bit. He said he's going to try to figure out where his level is.
Yeah, sure. What do you,
So, but
do
yeah,
you think he can?
well, yeah, but he's getting close.
Yeah, no,
I think he can get down to 150 units on at least some of the better land.
mhm. Now,
A lot of
when you say better land, Daniel, has that got any clay in it? Is it most of that sandy soil?
well, some of this land that he never could get over 180 bushels before is extremely sandy soil. And he said this year that was his highest field, 280 some bushels in that real sandy soil.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but he does have some land that's got more clay base to it, and that does better as a whole.
Why do you think he saw the success getting rid of the chicken litter?
Well, I just think if you use chicken litter too much, you start getting toxins build up. And when he got rid of that and got the calcium in instead, he did have a buildup of nutrients in his soil. And I think the calcium is starting to make his nutrients a lot more available. And I think that was part of it.
Would you say that when you work with a new customer that's pretty well been following the establishment, that he probably does have an accumulation of nutrients that he can't get at, that he can start to tap into that once he starts getting the soil opened up and getting that calcium in there?
Well, yeah, I think that this is a little bit different from what Growers promotes, but this same guy last year, I told him that his calcium is low, and what's going to happen if he'll take a leaf analysis about time when the ears shoot, he's going to be extremely low in magnesium, and his trace minerals are going to be low, which the soil sample showed all of that to be high.
Right.
Well, he done that, and he said, Daniel, you're just right. I'm terrible low of magnesium and in the plants, in the leaf analysis, and I'm terrible low of trace minerals. And he said the county agent wants me to fly on a bunch of liquid magnesium. And I said, okay, good deal. I said, what we're going to do, you do half of a pivot with liquid magnesium, and then I got a product that's supposed to be, calcium normally just does not translocate. And this one, the guy that's making this, he'll take this, and I don't know how he does it, but he says he takes the modules of the calcium and explodes them. He makes them in just real fine pieces. And he said it'll translocate. So I told him to do whatever the county agent says on half the pivot. And then I want to do 1 quart of my foliar cal on there. And then in 4 weeks, we want to take the sample again and see what happened. And just for the question you asked, well, we done that? And he called me back and he said, Daniel, I don't believe it. He said, I put that magnesium on half of it, and the magnesium in the leaves came up a little bit, but the trace minerals didn't move. But the half where I put the foliar cal on, he said, my trace minerals came up to completely, all the way up. And my magnesium came up more than it did where I put the magnesium in. Okay, now just think about that. If that calcium did translocate, it went into the roots, and it got them microbes eating the fertilizer that was in the ground already. And I believe we are getting some of the buildup over the years of nutrients that were been in there.
Sure. Yeah. See, we saw that years ago in Quebec. in Canada, those guys had very low magnesiums in their forages. And of course, the establishment was having them put on dolomitic lime like crazy. And they couldn't get that magnesium up into the plant to save themselves. We came along and told them to put on the high cal lime, and the magnesium came up into the plant. And see if that liquid calcium is doing its job, that will make the same thing happen. See that?
That's right.
The plant is not using all of what is applied. It's getting it moved. And see, the research that they did at Michigan State says that can't happen, or they didn't see it happen. So possibly the environment of what they're doing with it is affecting how that calcium moves, or it's getting translocated through the microbes that are associated with the leaf surface. But once you start to get the traces to go up and the magnesium that come up into the plant, like you said, Daniel, it's the calcium that's affecting the microbes in the soil. They're finally releasing what's there so that the plant has activity with it.
Yes, sir, I believe that. And I know I got a happy customer there.
Yeah. Thanks,
Hey,
Daniel.
Jim.
That's
Okay.
excellent. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, yeah, no, I can just add on to kind of some of this stuff. For those of you or customers out there, Matt Gooding, I'm kind of independently contracted as kind of a research and educational material developer, I guess, for lack of a better word, and farm, and I'm second generation growers user. Dad started with the company. You know, some of the stuff that we're doing and done, you've seen in the newsletters and such, but we're working on what we're currently trying to come up with is how to set up a way of showing how, like with Daniel, the man whittled nitrogen down. It is felt that we are seeing tremendous response with multiple placements of growers at planting in a myriad of crops. In corn, I mean, I'm getting customers calling me right along here that are ordering growers, and they all are having stories. A number of them have made conversions to their planting, whether they're vegetables, to get growers in multiple places, and they're adding water. And what we're doing is we're just enlarging the area of biological enhancement that we know and have demonstrated in multiple ways that growers helps biological proliferation. And so it is one of the things that I will be doing this winter, and I talked with Jim the other day just on this, is figuring out the quality of water needed to do this. We know foliage feeding and the quality of water, and for that matter, herbicide quality of water is just huge in anything going on in foliar. But the question is, and we have some things we're going to do there too, that some of you as dealers and customers have asked me to do. We're gonna take another level there. We're gonna look at softened water and hardened water and stuff. And so much of this is just developing the equipment and techniques and protocols and challenging me a little bit. But we also want to try to do it with water that's being added to fertilizers and specifically growers and also nitrogen. It is felt that there is sometimes with growers now, like tonight I was just talking to a grower's user, and we were talking about planting of wheat, and in this area we are as dirt dry as you can imagine. I mean, there's nothing there. And he was talking about putting on some more volume of growers, and I said, well, why don't we ramp up the water, because he has a reverse osmosis access to get to reverse osmosis water, which is pure, and use a little bit less growers. You wanted to put on 4, 5, 6 gallon of growers in the wheat. What about that? Well, you're dirt dry, and the reality of it is adding more water will actually make a smaller amount of growers work better. And that's simply because we're just wetting more of that area for the biology to proliferate. And so we want to see what happens when we do it in multiple places. I mean, one of the first customers I challenged to do this with 3 years ago, he puts growers directly in the row and on each side, right behind what would be like a spider closing wheel. I can't remember the exact name for it. And he'll tell you it's not exactly how he'd like to do it. He knows now how he wants to do it after this year. But he's putting in water with that also often. Even a couple gallon, 2 to 3 gallon, because he puts up to 7 to 8 gallon in those 3 positions. And he called me the other day and a humbling call, because he goes, I finally succeeded in my goal as a farmer. He said, I raised 300 bushel corn. He goes, I have this big field that, it's running 240 to 320 bushel. And he goes, we had a lot of 320. And I am getting calls like that all the time, especially from the grain people. I'm surprised. Best corn I've ever had, best tomatoes. Roma tomatoes used for not canning. Can't think of what I want to say. I know he has several hundred acres. Their yield is almost doubled in the last 2 years now, 2 or 3 years. They're contracted for 30 ton of the acre. He got almost 60, and they were of high quality. And what he's doing is he's putting, growers in and around the row, and water is part of that factor. And so back to Daniel's statement, and kind of let in all this, and for me to turn on or shut off the mute thing here. Why can't we do the same thing with 28? And in some ways, I think in some situations, adding and I'm pretty sure it's going to have to be clean water. Now, I can say it, and I got to do stuff in the lab to back it up, to be, more confident with that. And then, we'll mess in the field and that sort of thing. But preliminarily, we're seeing that in all sorts of things with growers, and a lot of the research we've done. And frankly, the people that are multiply placing growers in around the row. I mean, we're seeing things, and why not? We're widening out, putting something that enhances biological development, and spreading it out. That's all we're doing in essence. And in many places and situations, such as like this wheat situation, I mean, when you're super droughty, I don't know if it's a good idea to put 5 or 6 gallons directly on a seed. Let's use less and put more water and really crank the water up. I'm talking maybe 10, 12. I think we can go as high as 15 on that planter. I think we were talking about, let's crank it up, because I tell my customers, when you're making up something to put growers, whether in the row or in multiple places, whatever you're doing, whatever your time is on that, or whatever you're doing in terms of application, you make that so you can put on a lot more than what you're planning on. So in other words, if you're setting your planter up to put on 7 to 8 gallon in the row of growers, I'm telling you, get the orifice and everything so you can double that in just situations like this, because I'm telling you, it's an insurance policy that will pay dividends for you. I don't think there's any question about it. Now, got some more detail, got some more work to do. I am very suspicious that like on spring foliar, that water quality is a huge difference. I would suspect that's a big difference also in doing it multiple places to a point. In other words, I'm going to use different TDSs and pHs of water, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be that there's going to be a level of TDS with a certain pH that we won't see quite the benefit as if you could have used a cleaner water source. So those are the things that I'm going to be working on quite a bit. I will tell you too that in doing growers in multiple places, Now I've had the second customer call in that after talking much the way I just talked to you guys, he was setting up a planter and they put it in multiple places, and they were always putting I want to say 10 gallon of 28 off to the side. And that was their intent to do it. And I basically talked them out of it. I said, if you're going to do this in multiple places and crank the water, drop the 28. And so they did. And it's a family dairy farm. 4 brothers have gone on and moved away, or 3 of the 4 brothers have moved away. 1 brother's still on the home farm. Dad's up in years. So they all put, they know every field and how much it's made and went in the silo, they all know it. And when they called, 2 of the brothers made a comment right away. We helped the home farm brother put the silage in, and he said, we got more silage than we ever have gotten, and we filled that silo and had stuff left out in this field when that's never happened before, and the silage did not settle either, indicating more dry matter weight. It just didn't settle. And they had dropped the use of that 28 completely, multiple places of growers with water, and they had cut back on their post 28 in the row that they've done in the past. They used to use high amounts, much like Daniel's talking, they cut it back. So there's all sorts of methodologies and different things we can talk about here, gentlemen, that I mean, it's working. And, we all live in different parts of the country, these, north, south, east, west, different organic matters. And every area is going to have their own detail, but we're out to find some of the basics here that I think you can hang your hat on and feel confident to do. And I think the whole goal here for me is to have different, different things to look at and digest and feel comfortable in what your decision is. Bottom line is to provide you with information to make an intelligent decision and a contrast in that making a decision. So often a lot of farmers, go to an agronomist and, hey, I need yield, or I need this, that, and the other thing. And they never contrast that. And so, growers has always been able to contrast thought trains and different things. And so that's what we're up to. So we're getting close to 10 o'clock. I'll turn it over to Zach to let him close it out however he wants.
Thanks, Matt. All right, I think we'll call it then. The next conference call will be on November 10th, again at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who spoke. And I hope everybody has a great night.